Okay, let's see if this is working. I have to set up the stuff every time for Legends of Aria, so hopefully these settings will work. And now usually I end up having to reposition everything as well, so I usually have to have a fair amount of... Come on, move. Can it move? Need to try and make things big enough to be readable on stream. So let's see how much we can do. I think we can do about that much. And now we have the... what happened to all my other windows? Let's see, okay. I might have to move all my bags as well. But I think that should be fine for now. Okay, so our plan of action is to accumulate some gold. I want to at least be able to buy a plot. I don't necessarily need to build a house or anything on it. But I want to have a plot just so I can put down like a chest or something in order to be able to transfer things between characters. Why is this taking so long? Hey Kawaii, how are you doing? I want to try and see if I can put chat up. I think I'm gonna have to grab it from here. Sorry, I'm just gonna switch to a different layout to grab this. Okay, there we go. Should be chat now. Oh, I think I might need to... set this differently. I need it in the bottom right corner. Bottom right. That should be good. Okay, let's see if we have our chat in the right place now. I am good. I had a bit of a rough week, but it's over now, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. Work's been a little bit crazy. But we don't complain about that. We get on with it. Okay. Okay, so I'll have to just keep an eye on where the chat shows up. I think it should show up at the bottom right now, so it should be good. Okay, so what we're trying to do is we want to buy a plot. So once you have a plot, you can put a container on it and lock it, and then all the characters on our account have access to it. So if we need to transfer things between characters, we can do that. Right now we have to like find somebody to give the gold to, and then come back with your other character and hope that they give you the gold and don't keep it. So I'm fundamentally not a trustworthy person, so I'm not going to be doing that. Oh, I know exactly what's happening now. My bank is there, but it's not showing because it's over there. This is the same problem I always have. Okay. So, ooh, that's a bit loud, I think. I'm assuming that's sound that... I don't know if it's coming through quite loud on my headphones. I don't know if it's coming through that loud on the stream. Okay, so what we need, to buy a plot, the small plot is 5 platinum, 6,000 gold. So basically 56,000 gold. And we have 4 platinum, 8,000 gold, which is 48,000 gold. So we need another roughly 8,000 gold. Now what I've been doing is I have another character that is, you know, more of a combat-oriented character. And that seems to be an easier way to get gold. You just go to the graveyard, fight skeletons and zombies, and you make a fairly decent amount of gold. But the problem that I have is all the gold that I accumulate on that character, I can't transfer to this one. So without having the plot, that's why we want the plot in the first place. So how I got most of this gold was by doing crafting orders. And I don't think I have spare materials really. Well, I have some smithing materials. The main thing I want to do is maybe I can do how many boards? Okay, I won't have any boards because I helped somebody else out and I just sent them a bunch of supplies today. So I would have used up all the materials that I had for that. There's 175 cotton. We should have orders for these. So maybe I do that. I take all this cotton and try and get some crafting orders done. But what I also need to do is check if there's any more crafting orders that we can get. So normally what you do is you get a crafting order and then you finish it and then you get another one. But if you don't finish it in a certain amount of time, they'll give you another one. And what we want is we want specifically iron full plate leggings is the thing that's going to be the most resource efficient for us to craft the next thing. And they don't seem to have that available, so I just keep checking and I don't take anything else unless it's that, because everything else I'll keep my materials for crafting things that I want to craft later on. Then the next thing we're going to do is, I guess we can go to the carpenter. From the carpenter we need craft orders for crates. They're the most efficient. They only take 2 boards per craft, and they can take us all the way up to skill level 70. So if you look at us for carpentry, we're at 58, so we can go all the way to 70 with crates. And crates only take regular wood, so that's a pretty good strategy. With carpentry we have a little bit of an issue getting those crafting orders because we actually unlocked some other things, which gives us more options for craft orders, which means the chances of getting the one that we want is less. So here you can see Blightwood and Ash Shortbows. Technically we could have avoided that, it wasn't an option, and then we wouldn't have to have it in our list of options. You can see other people took things like Gates and Ash Small Shield. Now it would be nice if you could pick up these craft orders that people get and then complete them, but these are actually tied to your character. So the recipes that they give you as reward aren't. If somebody drops down a recipe, you can just take it and learn it. But the craft orders are definitely tied to your character. So if you get a craft order and you don't want to do it, you drop it down. You can't pick it up, and somebody else can't pick it up and do it. So unfortunately, it would be nice if somebody got a craft order that they don't want to do. They just took it to reset the crafting order, and then dropped it down, and that if it was something that you wanted to do, then you could complete it. I would even say that there would be a market for craft orders if you could sell them for like 100 gold. I mean, they're going to pay you about 100 gold to do it, or depending on what it is. Cloth padded helm is what we want, because that's what we're currently doing. So I'll take the 15 one, because I want to keep the increments that I do small, so that I don't end up with too many. This one is 60, but we've already started on it. But we have a few small ones. We have a 5 and a 15, so we'll do the 5 and the two 15s first. And we actually want to start doing that. But what I first want to do is make sure that I've got full vitality, because I believe that has a chance to influence your skill gains. So we've got 30 skill points spare, so we're not close to the cap. I usually check the cap just because if you hit the cap, you don't get skill gains, but you still use your resources. We don't want to do that. So this won't be nearly enough. I only have 175 cotton. 175 cotton will turn into 5 times that, so it'll be about 800 or so. And these cloth padded helms take 10 bolts of cloth per, so that's 50, another 150, another 150, so that's 350 already. But that would be with 100% success rate, and we don't even get close to 100% success rate yet, so we'll probably end up using all of the cotton that we have just to finish at 1 or 2 of these. Technically we should have made the cloth first and then gotten ourselves well rested, because there's no skill gains from crafting the cloth, only from crafting the padded helms. So by the time we start crafting that, we might not be fully rested anymore. But I'll see, we can check it here. This will show us if we're well rested or not. So let's just make sure this is still full. We can still go down with wool. I think we'll go all the way down to 20, so that constitution goes up to 35, I think. And I want to go down to 10 with wool and wisdom because it's useful. So we have a little bit of materials for fabrication, so we can do some cloth stuff. We don't really have any other orders though. So if we want to do the crates or any blacksmithing, we'll need to. For blacksmithing, we need the orders to craft, and for the crates, we need some materials. But what I was also thinking is, once we have a plot, another reason why I want to get the plot is you can craft the items beforehand and then get the craft order later to consume them and turn them in. So once we have a plot and a place where we can store the items once we've crafted them, then it's not so much of an issue, because then we can craft, like, if I don't get a craft order for crates, right now I wouldn't craft them, because the craft order allows me to consume those items so that they don't take up weight and everything, and when I finish the craft order I can turn it in and get a reward. But if we have a place to store the finished product, we can craft it anyway and just go and store it, and then that way when we get the craft order later, we can turn it. We can just use our stockpiles of those items, and so that's a strategy. But we need somewhere to put it. Like, we can't put it in our bank. The bank is going to get too full. because the bank only has, I think, 10,000 weight, which is a lot, but we also have all our other stuff in the, all our other raw materials and everything in the bank, so we don't want to limit ourselves to not be able to store things there that we loot or whatever. So I'm not sure that they've added this store in like in the past 24 hours. Um, People seem to be complaining about it a lot. Um, saying that it's not what they expected to have in the store. Now, I'm not 100% sure because I had no idea what they were going to sell. Um, but I did try to. Oh, okay, so it's working now. So this is active now. Because I noticed that there's an extra character slot in my login screen, but when I purchased this, it didn't reflect immediately. I think it's just a way that it goes through Steam or whatever. Oh, I actually need to check my weight. Okay, no, my weight's fine. Some of these look pretty decent, but yeah. So these are gems only, right? So you can get them. They become like weekly things. Yeah, I'm not really at the level of the game where the cosmetic stuff matters to me. And these decorations are mostly for your house, so I don't have a house, so I'm not too phased with that. But they had something about you get a cloak or something with a 1-month subscription. I don't know. I'll have to see how that works. Because I currently just have, what do I have? Just a normal. Oops, nope. You can keep your shirt on. Wait. Oh, that's weird. He has a cloak, but I don't have it equipped. How does that work? Because I definitely equipped it by dragging it onto the I don't know, these slots is for necklace and ring. So, I don't know. So we can see... I'll look into how you redeem that. I thought maybe there would be like a... Utilities, just name changes. Yeah, there's definitely no way to get it from there. How many's left? 81 cotton. So luckily I've been gathering cotton basically whenever I run around. Whenever I see cotton, I take it with any character. I've actually got a lot more cotton on my other character, but again, same problem. I need to transfer it over to here. I think with fabrication, I think we really only get interesting stuff after about 60, because that's when you can make saddlebags. And I think most of the decent armor, especially the leather armor, only starts coming in at around 80, 85. And at that point you still fail a lot, so it's quite heavy on resources to craft it. So fabrication isn't the most useful for us right now, but we will probably end up with fabrication uh, it'll end up being the highest because fabrication is the one where we set up our recipes correctly. Carpentry we did a little bit better than smithing, but I did unlock the materials, so that's really going to hamper us as we get to the higher levels. I'm just trying to keep an eye out for any skills that I didn't set to 0 that I need to. So we've got these 5 skills are core crafting skills. These we all definitely want to get to 100. So that's 5 skills. It leaves us with 100 points. Now I could take another crafting skill to 100, like inscription or alchemy or something like that. There isn't really anything very useful. Maybe cooking for food, or I guess if we're trying to be more of a resource gatherer. I don't actually know what fishing... Yeah, fishing is a skill as well. So that might be something we take, but what I felt would be a better idea is to take that 100 points and leave it for a combination of lancing, martial prowess, and vigor. Vigor, and then for now we've got healing in there as well. So that'll be, obviously those are already far over 100, but these other things aren't close to 100 yet either, so there's some capacity. As these things get closer to 100, I'll have to drop some of those bit by bit, either capping them at 50 or removing some of them entirely. So like healing is probably useful. We can probably get by without martial prowess, so we can reduce it to healing, vigor, and lancing. And then if we run out of points, we can reduce it to healing and lancing. Actually, no, we probably want to end up with like 50-50 lancing and... no, we want some healing. Probably want 50-50 healing and lancing. Just so that we can defend ourselves when we're out and about, and that we can heal ourselves when we're out and about, because food in this game only works outside of combat, and if you're in trouble, eating isn't going to help you. So we'll see, but we technically only have to decide that as we hit our cap. Technically, if this becomes a pure crafter and we have item transfer capabilities so that my other characters can collect materials, he won't need to leave town. He can be safe in town. He doesn't need any combat or healing skills. He should technically not be taking damage. The only time he'll really be in any kind of danger is if he's running towards, if he's going from one town to the next, or he's going to wherever our plot is, or back to town. Sometimes if he's mining in a mine, there might be bears or some other kind, or some kind of a hostile mob that he needs to defend himself from. But then with the skills that he'll have, he won't be able to take on something like a Drake anyway, so he won't be able to mine in those mines on his own. Okay, so if I wasn't mistaken, I saw we went down from well rested to just rested, so just to be safe, I'm gonna go back to the tavern or the inn and just become well rested again. Again, I'm not 100% sure that that's going to actually affect the gains, or even how much it affects the gain. So normally you can get vitality from the hearth over there. But maybe if I listen to music, it'll give me well rested. Okay, so this puts you at well rested, while the hearth only puts you at rested. Okay. So it is actually useful if a bard is there. Okay, so what we need is armor, cloth padded helm, and we'll just say craft all. And we'll start from the left. Seem to be succeeding a fair amount of the time now. And normally I would just craft like 35 of them. But I'm actually trying to get new crafting orders. Specifically, oh, well, I guess I can't get the next item that we craft after cloth padded helms. I don't have the recipe for, so that's why I'm not getting those craft orders yet. And I'm not sure if this is enough to get me through it. But what I'll do is I'll keep getting crafting orders for cloth padded helm. If I get to the point where I have more craft orders than I need, so like if you look at these two, this is the bandanas, or the previous thing that I crafted, and I skilled out of it so that it wouldn't be beneficial anymore. And so I kept the craft orders, and I'll just complete them later. But I'm not going to use the resources on that now because I'm trying to use as much of my resources as I can to progress my skills. So I'm going to complete that one. It'll give me a new recipe, which is linen legs, which I think is the next thing that I have to craft. So that's good. That's exactly what we needed. That only gave me 162 gold though. That's really not a lot of gold. Cloth padded chest. No, we don't want that. We don't want bandanas either, so we'll just skip it. Armor, cloth padded helm, and we keep crafting. So you can see we're on 2. As your skill increases, your gains go slower, but you tend to craft more items. So the first few crafting orders take quite a lot of materials to turn in. But as you progress, you start to finish crafting orders really fast, which is why it looks like, you know, it took me so much materials. It took me like almost 300 materials to make 5. You would think I would need a lot more to make all of this. This would be almost way too much to do. But later on, you craft them pretty quick, and they don't fail nearly as much. So you also get skill gains fewer and further between. So you actually end up needing way more craft orders to get, say, from 68 to 70 than we need now to get from 54 to 55. Okay, so that should be another one done. And each time we turn one in, it should reset. Got another linen leg, so that's fine. We'll have a spare. Let's just check if he gave us something that we want. Dress, a short sleeve shirt. Nope. Don't want either of those. And we also got translucent threads. We probably got another one. Oh no, we didn't. We didn't get one for the previous one. It was too small. I believe the bigger the order, the larger the quantity, the better the chance that you get an enchanted essence. So this one is also 15, but after that we started getting into the big numbers. We're still getting some gains. I mean, we started at 54. The fact that we're already into 55 means we're getting some skill for our resources. But I mean, the 100 and okay, that one was a bit better. The 15 one gives you a lot more gold. The 5 one gave us almost nothing. 5 gave us 200 and the 15 gave us 1,300. So it's definitely not linear scaling. So you definitely benefit by taking these big orders, and luckily we have a few of them. We've got a 60 and an 80. So my guess is those ones will give us decent gold. Only problem is it's going to take us a while to finish that. One more. Okay. Flowing, translucent. Okay, so let's put that there. Dress we already have. I guess we can put dress there because we already have it. And then we can check if it reset it. Skirt and pouch, these are all terrible ones. Now I'm pretty sure we won't finish this one. We're at 24, but we only have 200 bolts of cloth left. And we used about 600 to make the 35, so there's no way we're going to make another 36 with the 200 that we have left. But we'll add them all to this one so that it's closer to completion. Might as well. Do we have 3,000 gold? Yes. Like I said, we need another 8,000 to be able to buy the plot. I have an idea where I want to place the plot, but I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to place it there. Because I'm pretty sure if you could, somebody would have already placed it there. But there's a small chance that the spot is just so obvious that nobody's thought about doing it. Small chance. I doubt it though. Oh wow, we got like half a point. Half a percentage point. Yeah, 2 more attempts. Oh, we had 56. Okay. So we went up from 24 to 37. So we're more than halfway now. That's good. So I think that's all the resources we have for fabrication. We've also got 3,000 gold, so that's nifty. I think we should be able to get the wood for the crates, because we still have 40 crates to do. and it's fairly high skill. It's also from 50, so it's at about just past where we are now. Fabrication. So I'm going to move these over because that's all fabrication. Oh no, this one's crates, right? Yeah, so this is in the middle. So let's do this. We need the linen legs. That's one that we have. And then... oh, we actually have enough bolts for 2 more attempts. But that's fine, we'll do that later. So if we merge this with that, we should get 5 plat. 5 plat 1000, so we need 5,000 more gold. I think if we do the 60 crates, there's a chance that we'll have it. Let me think for a second now. So I'm just going to put this in here, so it stacks if it's already there. Oh, that's weird. There, now it stacks. Here's rejuvenating threads. Oh, so this is regular rejuvenating threads. These are damage rejuvenating threads. These two can also stack. It's just better because it makes it fewer items, I think. And then what else do we have here? These are maps. Bandages we don't need now, we're going to be in town. Don't need to eat. Okay. So let's do... let's go to the stable master. I don't want that. I want to grab all of these. I don't know, am I paying for this? I don't know. They're all following me. Wait a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm on a mount. You're not supposed to be able to do that. I'm guessing when I dismiss my mount, I won't be able to summon it again. That should be fine. So I think we'll do 1 load of wood. So each of these can hold 400. Oh, he's too far away. So each of them can hold 400, and I can hold about 380. With this, maybe maybe 370. So this has durability, looks like. That's interesting. That means that there should actually be a market for it. Because that means when you obviously have to go tame a new horse when it wears out. But also you need to make a new saddle. I guess you can buy it from the vendor for 500, so there isn't necessarily a player market for it, but if you sell these at like 250, which is half the vendor price, surely some people will want it. I think I have a ton of those. So I should be able to hold on to those for myself or sell them. I've noticed people tend to sell them for... Well, I don't actually remember what they sell them for, but if they sell them anything over 500 gold, it wouldn't make sense. Because your only incentive to spend that on a saddled horse from a player is so that the money stays in the economy. I think my mic is a little bit too loud, so I'm just going to move it a little bit further away. So this is unfortunately a little bit of a frustrating part. Just both the harvesting of resources and the crafting itself, especially at the lower levels when you have to level it up, can be a little bit, not annoying, it's not very exciting. Now, I mean, you could make it more exciting if you were trying to find the resources out in the wild where it's not safe. But I feel like it's kind of designed so that you get more benefit if you set up your character in such a way to have more crafting skills, which makes them less able to defend themselves, which makes them more likely to stay in town to do the harvesting. Does it always have it looks like it's like a zombie squid or octopus. I've never noticed that the one eye is like a different color. I really think they should change this so that you can get the basic materials in town, like the plain wood and maybe iron, in either the rock outcroppings in town or even in Helm's Mine. I feel like you should get iron and maybe copper there, but all the higher level materials you should have to go to like one of the mines that's, you know, around. So like that cavern there, or this mine here. This is the mine in town, because that incentivizes you to either take up mining in a character that's also combat class, or to have an escort, right? Like, yeah, it adds some dynamics to the game where, you know, this Joe Crafter style character that can just craft and mine or whatever can't defend himself in a mine or on the way there, and if he wanted to go mine, he would need to, you know, procure the services of some, you know, stalwart fighter or you know, sneaky thief or something to protect him. And that gives people much more incentive to, you know, form and join guilds, for them to play sessions. I mean, like, it's not, you know, this game isn't WoW, and when I say WoW, I mean World of Warcraft. It's not World of Warcraft, you know, they don't have raids or anything like that, but I mean, you can kind of have that sense of you can instill that sense of community with activities that's a lot more freeform than like, okay, we're going to do this raid with this boss and everybody must know the the tactics and everything, right? You don't have to go that kind of, you know, the more competitive gameplay style route, but you can have more of a, you know, weekly guild activity is, you know, mining runs, and then you have, like, you know, the 5 or 10 warriors in the guild will escort the, you know, some of the crafters, and, you know, each of them goes to a specific spot, and you have a person to defend you, right? So that you can mine while they clear out the drakes or the whatever. And especially with how fast things respawn in this game, it would actually be a little bit challenging, because you can mine, but it takes a while. I mean, if you look at how long it takes to chop down this tree, right? You need a good 30 seconds to a minute to chop it down. Same with a rock outcropping or a mineral vein. So you either have to start mining when the fighter starts fighting the hostile mobs, and try and get it done before the hostile mob gets distracted and goes on you, you know, and before you pull aggro. But at the same time, if they do pull aggro and they shoot at you or fight you, you know, you're pretty squishy as a crafter. You don't have any. I mean, yes, you usually have health and you can wear armor, but then it actually gives you some choices, right? Like I see crafters running around naked simply for the fact that when you're not wearing clothes, it saves you a couple of stone of weight, which means you can carry more resources. Now, that's the kind of trade-off only a crazy person should make, right? Like, yes, there should be a couple of players that goes like, I'm gonna be as efficient as possible, even if it adds risk, right? Not having clothes or any armor should introduce some risk. But the way it is, if you're here in the Hell Mine, you're in town, there's literally nothing that can, not even a wild animal can attack you, and you know, you basically can't take damage. Like one hit and the guards pretty much instantly kill it. So there's absolutely zero risk for you not to have, you know, armor or even clothing. Now, if you go out into the wild, and players can kill you, I can guarantee you nobody's going mining without any armor, right? Even if it means you can only carry half as much, you would deck yourself out with the best armor you can make or afford, because you're likely to lose. You know, the player killers aren't really going to be interested in picking up all your iron ore and hauling it around, but they will be interested in taking your tools or your jewelry or anything that gives you kind of a boost. And that's something that I haven't gotten that far yet, but the rings that give you the stat boosts, I'm assuming will be useful for crafters as well, because I could probably increase my strength and my constitution, or at the very least my strength above 50. Right, which means I can carry more. It means less micromanaging for me with my backpack, which makes mining a little bit easier. So that's definitely worth getting it, even if it costs a fair amount of money. But I'm sure raid players will want those items, right? Even if you kill a miner just to get the jewelry off him, right? If it's worth 5 plat or whatever, somebody's going to kill you for it. But right now, I mean, it's just not really a thing, right? Because there's no resources. So let me just start mining this. So as far as I understand it, how do I... Oh, the UI scale is too big to... I need the map to be smaller. So as I understand it, this is the PvP area, and I'm not aware of any, at least for mining and lumberjacking. There's no resources here that you can't get here in the safe zones. Right, and that's something that I think I've seen people complain about, is that a large proportion of the player population were fans of Ultima Online that likes the PvP aspect of it. And it's not so much that they changed the majority of the map to be no PvP. It's that the bit of the map, the bit of the world map that still is PvP, has no reason for people to go there. And that's, I think, more of the issue, because that is what gives like PvPers nothing to do, right? I guess they can go and PvP each other, but I understand the mentality. Like, part of the fun for a lot of people is killing people who don't want to be killed, right? And if they wanted a competitive game, which is like, you know, matchmaking and playing people with your same skill and your same preparedness and whatever, then they would be playing a different game. It's that, like, you know, highwayman mentality where it's much more exhilarating and thrilling if you have to plan ahead, you have to find a good spot to stalk people, you have to, you know, do all that stuff. I guess I can take these. I might as well skill up lumberjacking while I'm chopping wood. This looks like blightwood because I'm not getting any. And as much as I like, so I know a lot of people play on PvE servers, the community servers that are specifically only PvE. But from my point of view, the official servers are basically only PvE, right? They've given us, I think the idea was to give people who didn't want to take part in PvP a large enough world to explore, so that they don't feel like, oh, I only want to do PvE, but I can only go on like this little part of the map or whatever, right? They wanted to make it big enough that they feel like, okay, you know, we don't have this, like, if let's say it was the other way around, this area was PvE and all of this was PvP. Some people wouldn't want to do PvP and they'd stay in this area, and after a while they go like, I've already seen all there is to see and I feel bad that I can't see the rest of the world, so I'm going to stop playing the game. Which is a legitimate concern and something that they have to address. And so I don't necessarily disagree with the fact that the larger proportion of the map is PvE, but I think that the incentive to go to the PvP area needs to be higher. Like, as it stands now, I don't see any reason to go there. I have almost no plans to go there. The only thing that I'm aware of why I might go there is on my tamer. Oh, that doesn't work. Okay. On my ranger character, I might need to go tame beetles, and they're in that area. They seem to be the best. They seem to be the best animal you can tame from 60 taming skill onwards for a while. And I think they're only in that area. But now the thing is, if that is a PvP area, I don't necessarily know that I feel like there's going to be, it makes it a little bit too easy for them to know where you're going to be if there's really only one thing there that you can't get elsewhere, if that makes sense. And so as a result, I think I might, if there's a way to get through the, say, 60 to 80 taming without going there, I might do it, even though I'm complaining about the very thing that, like, people don't go to the PvP area because they don't have enough incentive to do so. For the bit that they do have incentive to go there for, I'm also not going there for, so it seems a bit hypocritical. But again, my defense is that the reason why there needs to be more things to do is so that it's a little bit less predictable. So I might with my tamer, rather than continuously taming the beetles, Yeah, so I'm assuming because there's a bracket. I think the brackets are about like 15 or 20 skill points between each of them. And so my guess is there'll be a taming quest around the 60 to 75 or around about there, which you can do to avoid it. Um, I think the range that you can get skill ups on a tame is pretty high. So horses, for example, start at about 29, but they're good for skilling up all the way to, I think, almost 50, right? I think it's is it 25 points? So all the way up to like 50, like low 50s. It's 25. When I started my tamer, um, trained to 30, I got the almost impossible prompt all the way up to about 33, 33 or 34. So I think on the wiki it says 29.1. But there's also, I think that the thing that I tamed after horses was, I actually went straight from horses to brown bears. I didn't do black bears or any of the stuff in between. And I think for brown bears, the wiki said, I think I think it's 41.1 or something like that. And I was at like 42 animal law, but short of 41.1 animal taming. And it would let me try, but I tried like hundreds of times and I didn't get a skill gain, and I didn't successfully tame it. What I ended up doing is I found some other animals like wolves and stuff and tamed them for a little while, and I tamed about 5 of those, and I got like 3 or 4 skill gains, maybe even 6 point gains off of them. And after I did that, I started taming the brown bears, and not only did I, so let me see, giant rat, poor snake, beetle 19.1. Oh, that's a small beetle. Yeah. Giant beetle 61, black bear is 39.1, but the brown bear is 41.1. So but there's something a little bit off there, because I had 41.1 animal taming and like 42 animal law, and it just wouldn't tame it. It wasn't giving me skill gains, and it also wasn't taming it. When I got a couple points higher, like 41.5, and then I tried to tame it, I started to get skill gains off it much quicker. Like every third, fourth attempt, I would get a skill gain. And I tamed it after about maybe 15, 20 attempts. Yeah. So the interesting thing is it did let me try and tame it when I had that as an average, right? It's a little bit harder because it's the 2 skills combined, so it's a little bit weird. And to my understanding, if it lets you try to tame it, you should be able to tame it. But I think in future what I'm going to do is I'm not going to try tame something right as I hit the threshold based on the stat. I'll wait until I'm half a percentage, or maybe even a whole percentage over the point on the average, just to be safe. Because it's not so hard for the neutral mobs, right? But the hostile mobs, I mean, you can't really start taming them right when it's possible, because you know, it's usually a stronger mob, and you're probably not going to last long enough to tame it successfully. I know people have been using the breaking line of sight with the mob and then taming it from the other side of a tree or whatever, or alternately get the most resilient animal you can tame to attack it and then stop, so that it gets aggro, and then you alternate between taming the hostile mob and healing your pet, so that it stays alive. And obviously, the advantage is that you also get some healing and animal lore from healing your pet. But I think that gets tricky later on as well, because as the pets take up more slots, right? So you can still do that if you've got, let's say, I'm assuming when you get to around the giant beetle skill level, if you have a brown bear, which takes up 1 slot, and the beetle takes up 3 slot, you can do that and tame it. But if you've got something like a beetle and you're trying to use that to tame something that also has more than 1 slot, or more than 2 slots, you won't be able to tame it while you have the beetle, tanking for you. So I don't know if that strategy is going to work for the higher level stuff either. So, but I think if I'm not mistaken, the taming quest. So I can do the highest one I have access to with my ranger is the bears, I think. And I think it says the bears are like 40 to 60 skill level. So that's the highest one I have, because I'm at like 47. No, probably less than that. I'm probably at like 45. But because the bears are aggressive, I don't know if the other ones are aggressive, the ones lower than that, but I don't bother with the lower ones, because I want to get the quickest gains possible, so I do that one. Then you get, so the problem isn't that they're hostile. If it is just one, it's not too bad. What I do is I take 4 bears, and I just kind of run through them the whole time, so that the bear that I'm trying to tame needs to run around them the whole time. And I take some hits and so on in the process, but it's mostly fine. You can just do that until you tame it. The problem is when they sometimes spawn 2 together, and then it becomes a little bit trickier, because while you're trying to avoid the one, you're running into the other one. And sometimes the pairs of 2 are close enough together that when you get close enough to tame one of them, all 4 of them aggro. So it becomes tricky. Now, I just imagine if the higher level taming missions are the same with hostile mobs and large groups of them, it might become even trickier, because there aren't really defense skills anymore, so you don't really you can't really level it up so that you take less damage, or so that they miss you. Because I mean, that would be ideal if you have some kind of defense skill where they'd be attacking you, but they won't really be hitting you, and you could, just tame them hopefully before they get your health down. But I think, I think what they want you to do is to do the regular, have your, because again, if they're attacking you, if they're attacking any of your pets, that when they initiate the attack, that's what basically interrupts the tame. So what you want to do is you want them to start attacking your pet, and then just continuously attack your pet without refreshing it, so that you can tame. Because what happens is if they attack, say, like the bears and stuff, if they see a hind or some animal nearby, they'll go and attack it. And if they do that, even though they're not attacking you, that still interrupts the taming. So it can be annoying when they're trying to tame them and they keep attacking something. I haven't actually seen somebody tame like a drake or a wyvern or something. So it'd be interesting to see what the strategies are that people use. I'm trying to see what to say. I know the beetle is the great beetle is the thing, that the giant beetle is what people normally go for after the brown bear. I'm trying to see what the next thing is. Is the giant crabs? Do you need 85 to tame them? So because they're not hostile if I remember correctly. I walked past them and they didn't do anything. So it means once you get to 85, that's probably good to get you all the way to 100, right? If they start at 85. I would imagine. Let's... So we can do 21 here. There's a couple of like UI things that I really hope they fix, like when I'm dragging things and I split a stack, I wish they would select the number so I can type right away rather than having to do all the clicking and the switching to your keyboard. I have to say, when nobody's in Helm, well, there's not nobody in Helm, but there's very few people in Helm. Gathering resources is very smooth. Like, somebody had obviously harvested those trees. I went around, I didn't even go too far, I went around the bank, just got these trees here and came back. By the time I came back, some of those trees had respawned. So I can literally just go around this building and harvest wood. And I mean, that's mainly because I don't need the higher tier wood. If you needed the higher tier wood, obviously you can't keep harvesting the same trees. But what I found is people harvest wood for buildings, and for that they want the regular wood. They don't want the higher tier wood, and so they go where it's easiest, like in town, and they clear out all the regular wood. And over time, the trees become more and more of the tiered trees. And so every once in a while, you'll see a lot of red leaf trees. And then that's a pretty good time to just go to the inn, get fully rested, and then chop down all the red leaf trees. Right? You get all the high tier wood, and you get some skill gains as well. It's definitely worth it, because like you can see, once you get to the point, I think around 70 is where regular trees don't give you lumberjacking skill anymore. I got to 71 just from, you know, what I tend to do is when I'm out exploring, I grab all the cotton I see for fabrication, and I'll typically harvest any wood from red leaf trees when I'm passing by. I can carry 400, so usually I have some space available when I get back to town, even if I'm just going between, like, if I'm going from Helm to Black Forest to check up on craft orders, or I'm going from Helm to Elder Village to check the craft orders there, or even if I'm just like, sometimes I just, for no good reason whatsoever, I just go to Elder Village to harvest the cotton in the field. I know it's almost such a waste, because you'll probably get more cotton on the way to Elder, picking up 2 or 3 pieces of like cotton plants that give you 5 and 6, since each plant in that field only ever gives you 1. But it's one of those things where it just gives you an excuse to go somewhere else, right? You know, you could go out of town here and then just run around a little bit and get the cotton there. What I usually do is I do a loop through here. I go to where the gate is and I go south, and then I just go around here, and then I kind of come back up here, and then I grab all the cotton on the way back. Not so much on the road, because on the road people build buildings, and then that reduces how much cotton you see. But I kind of like hug around the buildings so that you still have some open space. And I usually end up with like 100 to 150 cotton doing that in one round. And it takes maybe 20 minutes to half an hour. But what's nice is when you do that, you gather the cotton. You, if you see any red leaf trees, I tend to chop them down. Not so much for the wood, but for the skill. Um, and I sometimes also grab any lemongrass that I see, because I don't play with my mage often, but I have like a brand new mage character, and one of the things that they use the most is lemongrass for fireballs, right? It's like the only somewhat decent damage dealing spell that they have. Um, and I guess, I mean, a lot of people say, Catspur said that, I watched a YouTube video that she did where she creates a brand new mage, and within the first night she goes to, I think it's Deception, the what's this, the dungeon here. There's a dungeon here, I think it's Deception. And the main thing is that you use up reagents as a mage. So the strategy is to get to like a zero-sum mage, like a mage that can gather enough reagents to cover the costs of killing enemies. And so that's exactly the same thing I did with my ranger, right? You get him to a high enough skill level so that if he goes to a graveyard, the gold he makes from killing the skeletons and the zombies cover the costs for the arrows and the bandages or whatever, right? So that you're actually making money if you do that. And then obviously as your skill goes up, you hit more often. It costs you less gold for resources, and eventually you can make your stuff yourself, and then you don't have to pay for it. Hey Sly Mob, yeah, my day was okay. The first half, the work portion wasn't so great. So that's part of why I'm playing Legends of Aria instead of Minecraft or Borderlands. I actually played a little bit of Borderlands earlier, like right after work, just to de-stress for a little bit. But now I feel like just playing something that's a little bit relaxed, or it's almost tedious. But I don't. It's kind of a grindy day, but I mean it's a grindy game. But I actually find that quite relaxing. I'm trying to like figure out, because I'm playing. The character I started playing on stream was Flak, and I quite like that. I like that whole, picking your pet, and the pets have different strategies, and the positioning and everything of it. And then the other. So I wanted to play a little bit more, but I didn't want to progress my stream character, so I created another character, and I played with the operative, with Zane, because to me Zane kind of feels like Handsome Jack in, I think is he in the pre-sequel or in 2? I can't remember. I think he's in Borderlands 2. I don't know. I get confused. But the digiclone thing is kind of like what he had. So, and that's I quite like playing as Handsome Jack in the pre-sequel, and in the I think in Borderlands 2, there was a character with a turret. And I played him, and I quite like that character as well. But now the issue that I'm having is, because I'm playing the two characters, they're both not very far, so I'm redoing the same stuff, which is the early game things, which is quite frustrating, because I hate not being able to collect things when you go past them. So I don't know if you've noticed this, but the iridium shards that you can't, you're supposed to punch them and break them, but you can't until you get to a certain point in the game. So I'm constantly running past them thinking like I should be collecting this and I can't, and it's so frustrating. So part of me is thinking I should just take the character, my Flak character, and just get him to the point where I can do all that stuff and not bother with the other character. Or I mean, I should pick one of the two and get through the whole story with that one, you know. Because one of the things that I don't like about Borderlands is the right at the start, when you don't have capacity for anything. Like you have no bullets, you have no backpack space, you have to buy all those SDUs. Once you get more space and stuff, I enjoy it more because I like to pick up everything. With looters, like I grab everything. Most games that have the mechanic where there's randomness in the drops, and you know, they want to reward you by giving you a small chance to get an absolutely great weapon. When they add the randomness, most weapons are garbage, right? Because you really need 2 or 3 things to line up to make a gun feel good, and most guns don't have that. To the point where I would get a 200 score weapon, and sometimes even like a purple, and you have like a 120 or 130 score weapon that you've been using for a while. It just feels better. The damage is maybe not as good as it should be. You know, a lot of things about it is not that good, but the way that it works makes it so that you're much more efficient with it. And I don't know if that's just the way that they score them that's funny, or if it's just the fact that the combination of things, certain combinations of things just work much better. And I always feel bad when I get all these weapons that are supposed to be better, but I don't do as well with them. So you tend to get these jumps in like how good you are at progressing when you get a significant improvement in your primary weapon, or you know, in your shield, or whatever it is. I know a lot of people weren't that interested in the siren when it was announced, because they were like, you know, there's been a siren in every game. It's the you know, kind of the most boring class. But then when the game came out, quite a lot of people ended up playing a siren. I think the way that they balance the skill trees is making a lot of people enjoy it. The fact that the siren has a little bit more melee in it. I quite like the tree that has the action skill that sends forth the like the ghost siren clone thing, which does damage to everything along the way. Like that one's pretty cool. And as far as the people that I've seen play it have really enjoyed it. I think the only character that I've seen somebody play and not like, as in they started playing that thinking that would be their main character, and then they started over with a different character to do the playthrough, was Moze. And I think that was somebody who just felt that they were hoping that Moze would be like a powerhouse character. So like, you know, once in a while when you pull out your action skill, you just wreck things. And I mean, it probably is strong when you use the action skill, but they said that they like to play fast, and playing with Moze just felt too slow. It wasn't high paced enough. They'd rather be moving around a lot more, doing more like surgical damage to certain enemies at the right time, that kind of thing. And Moze didn't seem to fit that play style very well, at least not for them. But everybody else has been saying pretty much that they like most of the classes, and the ones that they started playing, they were happy with. And that's really what you want, right? You want every class to be viable for most players. You're always going to get somebody who's going to play one of the classes and not like it. But on the previous ones, Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel, you know, especially after the DLCs dropped, when they had like the 6 playable classes, a lot of the times I played most of them, if not all of them, and usually 3 or 4 out of the 6 I don't like. Yeah, I can play them, but I don't enjoy them nearly as much as the 2 or 3 other ones. And I think with this will be the case as well. I think any one of the classes that I played, I think I would enjoy playing them. But I also think, yeah, Moze is probably the one that I'm least likely to enjoy. Hey, Dead Rebel, it is going good. How's it going there? I saw you were streaming some Borderlands earlier. Still enjoying it? Wait, it's you. Your time zone's ahead of us, right? So it's like either early morning or in the middle of the night for you now, if I'm not mistaken. Because are you in Thailand? No, not in Thailand, you're in Malaysia. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I know. So, a lot of people have been complaining, and I kind of see where they're coming from with the, like at first there was the Epic Store thing. Everybody was complaining about that. I actually didn't want to get the game because of the Epic Store exclusive thing. Actually, I didn't want to get the game because of the Epic Store exclusive thing, but I did. I caved eventually and got it. But yeah, I had some weird experiences where it still happens actually. I get sometimes I don't really know what it is. I got a prompt that says the game there's an update available and go to the main menu to apply it, right? And it's like a big white section of the like 2/3 of the screen goes white with that message. And then I would go to the title screen and then go back into the game and it comes back, right? So obviously going to the title screen doesn't apply the update. So then I quit the game, like I quit out of it, into the Epic Launcher to see if I could get it to like say update or whatever, and it didn't auto update. Auto updates is enabled. It didn't update. There was no option for me to say, you know, update it now or anything like that. So I thought, okay, maybe it downloaded the update before and it just applied it in the background or something, and I have to restart the game. So I restarted the game. I went back in, and for me with the DirectX 12 setting, it takes a good long 7-8 minutes to launch the game. So that's quite a process. After all that, I go in, I load the character and go into the world again, and the pop-up still came up, except this time it was 2/3 of the screen with white and nothing over it, and I couldn't get rid of it. So I just got to the point where I said, like, okay, look, I'm not going to play this now. I'll wait a day or something for them to sort it out, because it's obviously something that needs to happen on their side. And yeah, some people have been saying that they're getting frame rate issues. I haven't really had frame rate issues, but then I have a fairly beefy computer, so there might be some horrendous performance things in there that I'm just not noticing. I know some people have complained that their cloud saves go missing. But I think Gearbox have said that that's got to do with people playing on more than one machine, and when they play in offline mode, the conflict resolution that's supposed to kick in when you go online again with the machine that you were offline in, it prompts you which save to use, the one in the cloud or the one on your machine. And obviously if you pick the wrong thing, it's going to delete one of your saves. So they're kind of making it sound like that's just user error, which it might be. I don't know. I haven't had the issue, so so that might be a legitimate explanation for it. But yeah, other than that, and then there's some issues with the DRM is apparently They're looking at like performance metrics for the console versions and the PC version, and apparently there's like a good 20% worse performance on PC, which they're attributing to the DRM thing. So all of these things, though, I feel like one of the advantages to playing a game on PC, which is why I do, like honestly, I could have avoided the whole Epic Store mess and all that kind of stuff by just getting it on console, which is what I probably would have normally done. In fact, one of my close friends who will be playing it on Xbox, so it would have probably made sense for me to get it on Xbox. But I wanted to stream the game, so for me, streaming on PC is just 100 times easier than trying to set up console with a capture card and all that kind of stuff. So I do play with a controller though, so for me the experience is the same, except I get better performance than on console. Well, at least I get better performance than I would get on console, because I have a 1S. I don't have a 1X. And my PC is like a fairly high spec PC. Like when I bought it, which was a while back, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, it was almost the highest spec you could buy. So, I have twin 1080 GTX overclocked gaming editions and stuff, so I've got decent graphics. The plain PS4 runs better than the Pro. That's curious. Do they? So I'm assuming you don't get graphics quality settings or anything like that, right? They just it's just set to what it is on console usually. So what they probably do is they've turned some of the features off, because with PlayStation I know they specifically do that. The Pro has there's the 4K that's not upscaling, and all that kind of stuff. So they usually make it so that they set a spec for the PS4 and they set a spec for the PS4 Pro. And part of the reason that they want you to buy the PS4 Pro is because you're going to get the better graphics and everything. But even then, it comes at a cost, right? Because the better graphics is obviously going to make it do more stuff, and then sometimes it doesn't match up exactly and you get better performance on the PS4. I think it would have been nice if they had an option, which I don't know if people would want to do this, but to run the game as if it was on a PS4 rather than a PS4 Pro, and just have better performance, right? So I get it's a console, you don't have to let them tweak the settings or whatever, right? But you've got two modes already. You've got PS4 and the Pro mode. It would be nice if they made it so that you can just fall back to the regular PS4 thing. Because I would actually do that a lot. I would want consistent frame rates and decent graphics, right? Because I mean, running it on normal console, it's optimized, so it's not going to look bad. Maybe a little bit less level of detail, and maybe I don't even know if they use lower res textures, right? Because they need the HD textures for 1080 anyway. So, I mean, the performance difference isn't going to be massive. I mean, the quality, the graphics quality. So I would do that. I actually, a lot of the times when I use like the NVIDIA, what are they called? The game ready drivers or whatever, that has the optimal settings for the game. I usually turn it down from what they state is the optimal settings. In fact, they tend to put most of the optimal settings tends to favor things like the anti-aliasing and ambient occlusion and stuff. Like they tend to put that stuff on like 16 times and so on. And I rather scale those things back and add some better texture quality and stuff instead. But in general, I bring it down. With my PC, most things should end up on Ultra. But I think what they also don't take into account is I have an ultra wide monitor, so it's 21 by 9. So I think they look at the I don't know if they look at the height or whatever, right? So it would be 1440, and they work off of that, and they assume that it's going to be, what's 1440? It would be 2560 by 1440. But for me, that's not the case. For me, if I'm in 1440, I'm what's it, 3800 by 1440, something like that. So it's significantly more screen real estate, and if it puts it on ultra, then you do start to get some framiness on some games. So I tend to not use those presets all that often. And then of course you get games like this that are very weird, like on low and on regular setting here. When you put this, so when I restart the game, sometimes it puts it in very low for some reason. It just like resets this. And then there's some performance issues. If you switch it back up to ultra, the performance gets better. So I don't know how they implement that, but yeah, it's very, very weird. So for this, I need it to be an ultra for it to run smoother. Because you can actually see this is running in windowed mode now. So I'm running in windowed mode so that I can do game capture at the right resolution. Because again, if I go full screen, the stream is going to be banded top and bottom. And general, the frame rate in windowed mode is worse than it is in full screen mode. And I cap it at 60 frames because I'm screen capping at 60 frames, so doesn't really matter beyond that. And I don't actually know if I have VSync on, but I'm one of those people that I can't handle screen tearing. I would take half the frame rate with VSync over double the frame rate without it. It's just something that my brain can't handle when the tear runs along the middle of the screen. I think VSync was less of an issue back when we had CRT monitors and the artifacts were effectively hidden. So there would be a tear, but you wouldn't really notice it as much. Like if you think about it, when we used to watch VHS, those kinds of things used to happen all the time, and we kind of just shrugged it off. And I think that was mostly to do with the fact that we were watching on CRT monitor, CRT or equivalent monitors, and it just even though it was effectively the same thing, it didn't look as bad. But these days with the LED monitors and the IPS and all the stuff that's so crisp, it's just super obvious when there's a tear. I'm gonna have so much wood when I'm done here. I actually probably already have more. No, I don't think I'll have more than what I need for that order, but I'd rather have some extra because it's 2 per, so it's 2 boards per crate, and I probably have higher than a 50% fail rate. So let's say, to round it off, a 50% fail rate, and we need to make 40 crates. 40 crates would take 80 boards. With a fail rate of 50%, it would be 160 boards, and 160 boards is 5 times that in logs. So that's 500 plus 60 times 5 is 300, so it's 800. So it's two inventories full, so 2 horses. I probably have that at the moment because I think I filled the iron horse. Yeah, iron horse is full, so I'm actually going to put. There's a little trick that I use. I clear the nameplates, and then once the pack horse is full, I put the nameplate back so I know which ones are full. I think I put some in one of the other ones. It's either gold or copper. I think it's copper. Okay, so let's see. So if I put 69 in there, 69. So then that's copper done. So that's 800 wood. So that technically could be enough, but like I said, we probably have a higher than 50% failure rate. So let's open gold, and we put, well, how much is this? 290. We'll put that in there as well. So I'm gonna fill all 5 up and whatever space I have in my backpack. That should end up giving me about 350 boards. And that should be enough to do this order, the 60 crate order. And then I'll just keep the extra for later. We might need some boards. Once we get the plot, we'll need to make like maybe, I don't know, a table and a chest or something. So we'll need some boards for that, but I actually want to make more crates after that, so that if I don't have a craft order, that I can still keep on crafting them. I don't know how much wood we're going to go through to get from where we are now, which is almost 59, up to 70. I think we need to make crates until 70. But basically all the things that we craft to get carpentry up to, I think like 85, maybe even 90, is all regular wood. I think it's 85. At 85, I think you start having to craft ash warbows or something, and then from there on we need ash wood. So we're basically going through wood all the way up, so that it's worth it to just grab as much wood as you can in a go. None of it will go to waste. And if we get any red leaf trees, we'll harvest them. And I'll keep all that ash. I'm actually not even going to convert the ash wood into boards yet, even though it would technically give me skill gains now. Doing so will also lose me some of the materials, and I'd rather get the skill gains from regular wood and keep more of the ash boards, because I'm gonna need a ton of them later on. Because the gains, once you get to like 85 and above, I'm pretty sure the gains are going to be so slow that we're probably going to need more ash wood than we need regular wood to get to 85. So I think getting from like 85 to 90 or 95, where we'll switch to blightwood, is going to take probably as much wood as it took us to get to 85 in the first place. Luckily, I think once we get to like 85, 90, we should be able to craft almost everything. It might take us a few attempts to craft some of the higher level things. But I get the feeling my crafter is going to be out leveled compared to my other characters. So I don't think I'll be needing... Well, I guess in this game it doesn't matter, right? Because it seems like the main advantage to the higher tier materials for crafting is just that things last longer. And that seems to matter most when you're going to modify it with enchantments or whatever. So if you're putting something that does extra damage or whatever, you'd rather put it on a weapon that's going to last longer, just so that you get more value out of it. And I think while we're leveling, we'll mostly be going for whatever the cheapest stuff is. I've made blightwood, or I bought actually blightwood bows for my ranger. Well, one blightwood bow, simply to avoid it running out the whole time. But what I'll probably do is, once I've gone through with that, since I'm not learning blightwood yet, Oh, actually, no, I've learned Blightwood with this character anyway. Um, so I can technically craft the bows. So I might do that. I might just craft the Blightwood bows for my ranger as I need them. But for the most part, I'm just using the basic materials for anything that's consumable. So like the arrows, I'm not making the fancy arrows. In fact, because I don't have transfer between characters, at the moment I'm just having the ranger buy arrows. And this is something that I've noticed on the server, is that nobody's really decided to, well, maybe they have and there's just no supplies left, but if the regular arrows cost, so you can buy arrows from the NPC vendor for 1 gold per arrow. Now, maybe that's cheap, but to me it sounds like it's expensive, right? If you think about like a gold coin for an arrow, like imagine you're in the real world and somebody wanted to sell you an arrow and they charged you a gold coin. That sounds like some John Wick 2 style economics. So I feel like that's expensive, but I think it's probably not so much if you consider that. Let's say something that basically a new player can do. Maybe a new player can't go to a graveyard yet because there might be too many enemies huddled around there. But let's say they can go to the sewers, right? A new player should be able to. If you put your skills at 30, you should be able to go to the sewers, no problem. And even if you can't, you get to 30 so quickly that you could basically go down there and get there, because in the sewers, things don't attack you until you attack them. So you're basically safe. You can 1v1 everything. Killing a lurker, I think, gives you like 15 to 20 gold. So you break even if you use 15 arrows, right? Which not even a new player would do. Of course, if the lurker gets to you and he does some damage on you, you also need to get bandages, and you'd have to replace your armor every once in a while. So let's say a lurker costs you, when you're just starting out, 5 gold for arrows, 1 gold for a bandage, and maybe another 1 or 2 gold for the damage on your armor, right? Because it's going to take a long while before you have to replace it. So when you're just starting out, lurkers are already profitable for you. So actually, even though you say 1 gold per arrow seems expensive, with the current economy, that's feasible. You won't have to farm something else in order to farm the mobs in the sewers, in other words. But for every bit of saving that you can have, so if you kill them with fewer hits, which means less arrows, means the profitability goes up. If you can kill them before they hit you, it means you don't take damage on your gear, so that cost goes away. You might not have to bandage, so that cost goes away. Although that would technically be a negative because you want to train your healing skill. You know, it gets better and better, especially for new players. So I feel like there's opportunity to sell arrows at like either at the price that the NPC does, because the NPC only has like 1,000. So the benefit of that would be that if you need more than 1,000 at a time, you could get it from that vendor. Which, let's be honest, with the weight that arrows have, you probably don't need to carry more than 1,000 at a time. But I've bought 2,000 arrows in a go just so that I could put some in my bank and have them ready for the next time I'd need them. But I think you'd probably get away with, if we worked out, how long does it say? So I think I worked out 5 wood becomes 1 board, 1 board becomes 20 arrows, so every wood becomes 4 arrows. So let's say you match the price, 1 gold per arrow, and players board it. each wood that you chop would be giving you 4 gold, right? Assuming you sell out, which means in this case it's 4 gold, 8 gold, 8 gold, 8 gold, right? Now you could kind of work out how much that is. Like once you get to high lumberjacking, I'm not being efficient because my lumberjacking isn't high enough. You should be hitting on regular wood. You should be hitting two wood every time. So you can reach a theoretical limit of every chop, which is what's that, like one. So it's about 1.5 seconds. Every 1.5 seconds, you get 8 gold. Working out how many attempts there are on a tree and so on. I think once you hit the skill where you get 2 wood on every attempt, it'll be, I think it's either 40 or 80. I don't remember. I'll have to check once I get to that skill level. You can say it's so many per tree and it takes this long, and you need to take this long to move from one tree to the next on average. So you can work out like how much wood you get in terms of gold every hour. And then obviously you have to process it as well. So turning the wood into boards and the boards into arrows takes a while as well. But that would probably be the most consistent, reliable way to make gold. It wouldn't necessarily be the fastest way to make gold, but that's effectively something that a starting crafter can do, right? I feel like there's this issue with crafter characters, and this has kind of always been a thing in UO and a lot of games like it, especially like World of Warcraft, whatever, right? You get this economy where people who are training their skills need to craft specific things to level them up, and that's the most resource efficient, and so they make a ton of those things, and the market for those things just don't exist because everybody's crafting them, and so they can't sell those items to make some profit along the way. What they have to do is sell it to NPCs or whatever to recoup some of their costs, but ultimately it's a net negative, in terms of income. It becomes an expense. But now if you can do something like this, obviously you'd have to sacrifice some of the wood for crafting arrows rather than for skilling up. But it's a good way where you can decide, okay, I've got so much wood, do I need gold more or do I need skills more? And you can kind of make sure that you always have like a couple thousand gold or whatever, and once you have enough gold that you can buy some things that you need, you can use any excess wood that you have for skilling up, and that would make sense because even though like wood arrows is like the simplest thing to make, and almost any character can make it, right? You need almost no skill for it. What tends to happen is once you get to the point where you don't have the points available and you have to drop things like lumberjacking and the 30 points of lumberjacking and the 20 points of carpentry or whatever that you have simply to make the arrows, those 50 points can make a huge difference if you put them in combat skills or in something that you need, something that you need more for being successful fighting enemies. And if you make the arrows cheap, I mean, you can even possibly go cheaper than the NPC prices. I wouldn't go like 1 gold for 2 arrows, but maybe 80% of that price. So 100 arrows cost 80 gold, and you can sell them in stacks of 100 just so that people can fill up the amount that they need. If it was close to a town or close to somewhere where people go and use the arrows. So I've noticed in Helm here by the graveyard, somebody has a shop or has a plot where they're selling arrows, but they're selling it at, I think, 500 gold for 100 arrows. And so that's 5 times the price that you can get it at the NPC in town. Now that would make sense if they had like a large supply. So the advantage is that you don't have to go back to town, and you don't have to carry it all the way with you. So obviously you buy 100 arrows, you use them, and then you buy another 100 arrows, so you don't have to worry about let me just see, 210, sorry, no, 110, 110. So that should be gold over there. So the next one would be cobalt. I don't know how much I have, but I guess I can put all of it there. Because I seem to see that like people are looking to sell a bunch of stuff, but nobody's really interested in buying because everybody's selling stuff. There needs to be something that people are like willing to go to your shop to buy. And I mean that might even be the thing, right? You sell arrows for cheap, and people learn that, oh, there's plenty of arrows for cheap there. You basically, what you want to do is you want to make it easier for people to go and buy your arrows than to make it themselves. And then hopefully that draws some people to your store. And you might have some other things as well, like some recipes or crafting recipes, or maybe some armor and stuff that drops from enemies. And you price them a little bit higher, and with the hopes that people will come and buy the arrows, and then they might pick up if they notice that, oh, my tunic is not in great shape. This bone tunic is 250 gold or whatever, right? You might buy that as well. Especially if you're like the guy that has the plot right by the graveyard, right? As far as I understand, from what I've noticed, the skeleton warriors drop the bone helm, bone shield, bone tunic, but they're usually in the middle with a group of enemies. And so if you're fairly proficient and you're fairly capable over there, you can just start killing them without really worrying about it, and then eventually you'll get that armor and stuff, so you don't have to worry about it. But for the newer players that are just coming to the graveyard, having that bone helm and the bone tunic, which decreases the damage from skeletons or from undead, that jump starts their ability to make gold there by quite a bit. So if it's cheap, like if it's at the point where it's gonna increase your profitability there, people will buy it, right? And once you get to the point where you can easily handle the graveyard, right? If you do end up still farming there, you'll probably just switch to your normal leather gear or whatever, or something that lasts longer. And so you wouldn't carry on buying it. But then at the same time, once you get to the point where it's really easy for you to farm the graveyards, you're probably going to move on to the next thing, right? To liches or whatever the next enemy is. Because if the game is designed well, the profitability of the graveyard will increase as your skills go up, but so will the profitability elsewhere. And while initially it'll be almost nothing, you won't be able to manage like stronger enemies. Once you can manage them, it's in your best interest to switch over. There's only certain conditions that will make you stay at, for example, the graveyard when you are actually able to progress further. So, for example, with my ranger, my combat skills is getting up there so that I can comfortably take on skeletons and zombies, even more than one at a time, with with my bow. But I can't with my pets. My beast mastery isn't high enough that they can comfortably take on multiple mobs. And so I would stay in the graveyard so that I can get my beast mastery up. And I can use my archery skill to get out of a sticky situation if I need to. And also there's a benefit to doing that, because once in a while I'll get overwhelmed, or somebody will, you know, a mob will spawn in right where I am, even though you know, I could have managed what was there at the time, and they'll take out one or two of my pets, and that's actually good, because when I lose one of my pets, it gives me opportunity to go out and tame a new one. And right now my pets are brown bears, and they're like still at the point where, you know, they're by far the easiest thing to tame that gives me the highest gains. So you actually do want to keep taming brown bears. It's just once you have 4 or 5, you don't necessarily want more. So you know, you kind of have to either stable them or have them die before you can tame another one. So I think at the moment I'm down to 2 bears, so what I should actually do is go tame another 2, because if you're trying to get your beast mastery up, every bear that's attacking an enemy you know, is another source for getting the skill up. So you know, 4 bears are going to go twice as fast as 2 bears. So it doesn't really make sense to try and get it up with 2 bears. Better to go tame 2 more and then do that. But I have noticed that my archery seems to cap at 58 from the enemies in the graveyard. So I'm assuming that's like on the map they say the graveyard is around skill level 25 to 50. So I'm guessing that's kind of like what the mobs are, and you can gain a little bit beyond that up to, I'm guessing, 58. So my archery is at 58 and it doesn't seem to be going up anymore. But my beast mastery is at like I think 44 or something. And so that should still be going up, but I think it's going quite slow because I've only got the 2 bears. So I think what I need to do is you know, get some more bears and spend some time there, and then what I've been doing is getting my archery up. But what I should do is I should stop using my bow and arrow and try to just use the bears. The problem is now that I've been using the bow and arrow, and because the bow and arrow does I would say significantly more damage than the bears, I've gotten used to when a skeleton, which moves much faster than a zombie, comes towards me, I can land 2 shots before it gets to me, and that puts it low enough that it turns around and walks away. And it's kind of in that sweet spot where it comes pretty close to you, so that when it turns around, you have enough time to get another 2 shots in to kill it before it goes back to where it came from and causes you to follow it into other mobs. Whereas the bears, if you tell them to attack the mob, first they run towards it, which aggroes the other mobs around it. And then once its damage is low and it walks away, it walks even further away into even more mobs. So really the best way to do it is to use the bow and arrow and just fire 1 shot to attract the mob towards you. Move away a little bit so that it walks past the bears, and then you tell the bears to attack it, right? And then you just gradually walk away so that, you know, the bears can follow it and do damage. And then typically when it starts to run away, it doesn't really matter which way it goes. If it turns around and goes back to the other mobs, you know, the bears should take care of it. And if it runs away from the bears towards you, you know, it'll go where you were coming from. So you should be able to clear it without aggroing more mobs. Of course, with the spawning mechanics, something might spawn there, and that might be an issue, but I think overall that'll be a better strategy. And as your beast mastery goes up and you do more damage, I think you'll end up getting more efficient at it and having less incidents. Because I think as your beast mastery skill goes up, I think your bears, I don't know if they hit more often. So with the other skills, it makes you hit more often. It doesn't necessarily make you do more damage, but with beast mastery, I think the damage that they do is fixed. I think the chance that they hit is fixed. The beast mastery skill just makes them do more damage. To have a pet that hits more often, you need a better pet. I think that's how it works. I might be mistaken on that, because the description of beast mastery, let's look at what it says. I don't have it here, but beast mastery is your ability to effectively command your pets in battle, granting a bonus to their damage. Now that means so the beast mastery determines when you give a command to a pet whether or not they follow that. So I think that's what they mean, your ability to effectively command pets in battle. And then the bonus to damage, I think, adds to the damage that they do, so that when you just get a pet for the first time, like you can just tame him, his damage will be low, but obviously as you take on stronger enemies, you need to somehow let that same pet keep up, and so that's why the beast mastery will improve the damage. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think animal law also has an effect. I think it's a smaller effect than beast mastery, but I think there is some effect. It might even be that animal law has something to do with the hit chance or whatever, but I don't think so. So I think reading animal law also says something about damage in knowledge of animals determines your ability to control and adds a bonus to healing your pets. So actually no, that's healing. I think animal law and vitality both. No. I think healing is obviously the base skill and animal law is the bonus. Whereas so animal law acts like vigor when you're healing your pets, I think. I think that's how that works. So let's open the cope. Oh, he looked close, but he obviously is not. This route just kind of worked out because we're approaching full, and we're also getting towards where we have to process the wood into boards. I've lost some vitality, but I'm not gonna bother to refresh it now because we don't get skill gains from the normal wood anyway. So we need 131. Should have that. So that means cobalt is full. So now we just have obsidian. Where's obsidian? Over here. Oh. Split stack 6. Did I accidentally... Is that iron or obsidian? It's obsidian. So did I miss one? Or did I still have wood from... I think I still have wood from the previous run that I did. Oh, that's good. So if we get these, maybe one or two trees on the side over there, then we can head down to the woodsmiths, and then we can get our first set of boards and see how many crates we can make. I'm hoping to finish this so that I can turn it in. If I get... I need, I think, 5,000 gold more. I actually have 2 platinum on my other character. But again, part of why I want the plot is to move that gold over. So I there is a way to just kind of like take both of the characters somewhere out in the wild in the same spot, log in with the one, drop the gold on the floor, log out, log in with the other one, and pick it up. Which is viable. I could do that. If I did that, then I would have the gold for a plot now. The problem is I can't do that on stream, right? Like somebody's watching and they see exactly where I am, they'll just like head towards there, and when they see me log out, they'll just do a drive-by and grab the gold. So it's a little bit of a chance to do that. So I don't think I'm going to take that chance. But it's fine. I also want to not buy the plot and have absolutely no gold left afterwards in case I need to buy something. $306. Need like 1 or 2 more trees, so this should work out, I think. So we're at, I think it's like, I should actually check. Okay, so on the next tree I'll see how much wood we get, roughly at the level that we're at. So we're at 326 now. So let's try this. 326, 3 times 2 is 6, so that's how we're going to remember it. I'm going to see where we end up and work it out. You can obviously get more at higher levels, but at roughly, we're going to stay at roughly this level of lumberjacking until we need to exclusively mine the red leaf trees. So we're at 326 and we're now at 349, which means it's 23 logs, which is so 4 trees per 100, which means 16 trees for an inventory. I should probably check how long it takes to chop it as well. Oh, I left my phone in the house. I don't know if Windows is not going to have a convenient timer to figure it out. It would actually be useful to check it at 58 or 70 or wherever lumberjacking stops going up from regular trees. Because if you think about it, then anytime you fail to harvest one wood or whatever, you're getting skill instead of wood. So it's not really fair to compare what your return is from just by counting the wood. And once you stop getting skill, then you can kind of think of that as that's what the wood return is from chopping regular trees. Okay. Okay, so this is. If you thought chopping the trees was a little bit tedious, this is even worse. The advantage to this is kind of like hands off. The only thing I have to do now is move the wood around. As my inventory space clears up, I can move more. Alright, Kawaii. appreciate you stopping by. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, because it's probably morning for you. Late morning, early afternoon. Have a good one. If I don't see you again, enjoy your weekend as well. I'll probably see you on Chaos's stream or something tomorrow or on Sunday. So here we have... So I might as well do this way. Command them one at a time so that I have them ready. Yeah, so this is the problem when multiple crafters end up here with all their horses. It gets a little bit messy. See? And now there's 3 of us. So what I'm going to do is, just to make space, I'm going to tell all my horses to go over here. And that tends to not work when their path is blocked. I'll do it this way so that there's only one horse here at a time. Shouldn't interfere with them as much. Oh yeah, that was the... So yeah, so this is one of the things that people actually need from other players is horses. But when you have horses to sell and you go around asking people if they want horses, nobody wants. And when you're busy doing something, somebody always wants a horse. So what I did is I just tamed a bunch of horses and put them in the stable. and then if somebody wants one, I could just go get it. But unfortunately, I have to dismiss these because otherwise I have to transfer these and then I have to go buy new saddlebags. Actually, I think on my other character I have a bunch of horses. I might not actually have. No, I don't actually have horses in the stable. I have to log in with my tamer. I should be able to bring this one. I'm actually, because it's supposed to cost 50 gold to stable your horse. So if I stable these and pull the other ones out, it's going to cost me 50 gold. So ideally you don't want to do that. You're actually better off to just go run and tame a new horse. But for me to tame 2 horses, I'd need to stable these anyway in order to have the space. So what I'll probably do is I'll log on with my tamer, who only has 2 bears at the moment, so she can pull horses out of the stable. And I think my stable on her is like just it's just like 14 horses, so I actually need to kind of get rid of them. Oh, is he running around the long way? Okay, good. At least he's still figuring out a way to get you. Yeah, so I've noticed that if I dismiss them this way, when I have no gold in my bag, it still dismisses them. So I was trying to figure out whether or not it's taking 50 gold from your bank, maybe. But I mean, if it's free, there's no reason not to do it, right? Because this character isn't really a tamer. I've got the 30 taming that I got by just picking the profession. You know, they don't limit you on these, so I just picked a ton of them to start off with. Did I do it? Yeah, so I haven't done that, but I got this, it put me to 30. And that's enough to tame horses if you're very patient. But I think since I don't have the horses in my stable for this guy, I don't want it to take long. So I'll log in with my tamer and just give him some that are in the stable. See. So I'm just going to wait for him to come back, because I don't want him to come back and then he sees that I'm gone, and then he's going to think that I just logged off or whatever. Hi, Green Giraffe, by the way. I know. I think you did. Oh no, you didn't. I thought you said something earlier. I saw you were playing some Borderlands and for a little while, and then you switched over to, I think it was Deceit. Just as I was finishing work today. Were you? You were playing Borderlands with somebody else. Is that your wife or girlfriend? Because I didn't really know who it was. I didn't watch from the beginning of the stream, so I didn't really get the explanation. I'm having a weird thing with the EchoCast extension, where there's a couple of streamers that I've watched with the EchoCast extension on, but I don't see. I see that it's there and it's running, because I see the buy now thing, but I don't see the EchoCast thing that you can open to view the inventory and stuff. And I also don't see the events when people level up. And I don't know if it's on my side, or I'm assuming it's on my side that something's not working correctly, because if it was like that for everybody, people would probably tell the streamer. I noticed it on your stream, and I noticed it on somebody else's stream. I think it was on your stream, Dead Rebel. I think it was the other night. And then we thought, because you're on PS4, and then we thought it had something to do with it being on PS4. But I've seen it on, I saw it on Green Giraffe's stream as well, and he's definitely on PC. I think. I say definitely. I believe he was on PC. It didn't work for me, but I'm starting to think it's not something wrong with how it's set up on the streamer side. I think it's something on my side, because it used to work. I watched some of the quote unquote official streamers like King Gathalion and them, and it worked on their streams on this computer, so it's not like a different computer. I have tried it on a Mac laptop as well, and there's a slight issue there in that the screen size makes it, because it's a 13-inch screen, it needs it to be full screen for it to turn on, which that I understand. But on this 34-inch monitor, it shouldn't be an issue. So now I don't want him to come back and just be waiting for me, because I've actually... Oh, there he is. Okay, so let's... I also would like, I know it's kind of like obvious to copy all other games or whatever, but having the ability to go when you log out, to not necessarily go to the title screen like we did, we have to reconnect to re-auth and everything, but to just go to the character selection screen. So like, when you log out, to put you here so that you can go back if you want to connect to a different server. But so it's a little bit quicker to switch characters. I don't know if a lot of people do it, but I guess the fact that they give you 4 character slots by default kind of implies that a lot of people are going to be switching characters often. So now I'm actually in a convenient spot because I only have the 2 bears. So I have space for the 2 horses already, which is actually perfect. And the stable is right by the bank anyway, so it's actually easier for me to go to the bank than to go to the carpentry workshop. So I should have my pet, horse and horse. Yeah, I have horse. My pet, please. And I actually have so many horses from taming them that I'm not even... Oh, yeah, switching accounts must be annoying. But then you using the standalone launcher then, obviously, because Steam doesn't really let you do that, right? They just use your Steam account. And where's the other one? This one. He's being super helpful. Yeah, so I did the same thing. I didn't buy the game on Steam. I can't type. I bought the game from their website. I've been missing one or two. Tons of craft orders. I bought the game on their website, even though it's significantly more expensive. I figured that way more of the money goes to the devs, so I bought it on there, and then I linked it up to Steam so that I can log in with Steam and I can launch it from there. But I tested that I can log in with my account details and with Steam. You can't log in with the same account though, so you obviously can't log in the two different launchers. Oh, he's already gone. So let's see. Let me just dump some of the stuff he gave me into the bank. I probably have to change the UI scale again. So I actually don't need any of this. He actually gave me the stuff, the boards and things which are for the other character, but I'll just keep it in here for now. What I have extra cotton. Like I said, once we get this thing sorted out where we can transfer, we should be a bit better off. I don't even think I have boards in here, I just have wood. So I'll keep that for now. Oh, where did this come from? So now I've got 3 platinum here and almost 5 there, so we definitely have enough for a plot now. It's just not on one character. I'm actually trying to get rid of these iron hatchets, so I'll just put that in there. The rune is for his shop, and his shop is in Black Forest. Okay, so no, that's not. There's a shop north of Helm that has quite a lot of stuff as well, like especially all the carpentry stuff and so on. But it's quite far, so I think the guy they sell runes to the shop so that it's easier to get there. If you go like all the way to the top, you go around here, I think right there at the top, either there or there is the shop. I don't think the prices are particularly good because he has everything, so he just keeps the prices high. But I guess if you're kind of out of the way like that, you need a convenient way to get there. So let's switch back. Yeah, so the advantage with the Steam one, I only have one account, so I don't have that issue. The advantage with the Steam launcher, and that's basically the only reason why I use the Steam launcher instead of the other one, is when I do log out to switch characters, I don't have to log in again. I just click login. And it seems like a small thing, but it makes a difference. I'm just like resisting the urge to, like, I know on the forums, in the Discord, everywhere pretty much people seem to just say, like, you know, Legends of Aria is okay, but you should really play LOU, right? And I'm legitimately resisting the urge to play it because I probably will end up playing that more. And I kind of have mixed feelings about it. Let me see how much I have. Still have plenty. Good. Did we emptied that one out, so you can go out the way again. What we will need is the next one after copper is gold. Go. Yeah, I mean, so somebody watching me play this might get the idea that I don't like the game because I critique a lot of it. That's not because I don't like the game. I think it has a lot of potential. I'm a very analytical person, so I like to pick the design apart and find things that work well and don't work well and so on. So I used to play Ultima Online back in the day in the 90s. It was my first proper online game. I spent a lot of time playing Ultima before that, and in particular, I'm one of the exceptions when it comes to fans of the Ultima series. Most people like Ultima 7, Ultima 6 is their favorite. You know, I'm a weirdo. Ultima 8 is my favorite in the Ultima series, which is the one everyone hates, right? It's the one that was rushed out, where they tried to do something different, and by all accounts it didn't work. But if you think about it, Ultima 8 was the first one that had that kind of interface that you see in Ultima Online, right? The 2D isometric view with the mouse cursor movement, all that kind of stuff. That all comes from Ultima 8. And yes, Ultima 8 had its own flaws. Combat in Ultima 8 was atrocious. It was to the point of not existing. The actual RPG elements, progression of it in terms of gearing and weapons and all that kind of stuff was terrible. They basically had 3 levels of gear. Actually, not even. I think they had like leather, iron, and then they had the magical armor, right? And the magical armor, I think, had like, there was one spot where every item was. So it wasn't like you could work towards it. You just had to go looking for it. So there was definitely some stuff that was bad about it. But the story, the exploration, it's actually very interesting the way that they made that engine, because it's actually what set the stage for Ultima Online, where, you know, if you have a house with multiple stories, you can go up the stairs. So it's 2D, but it's not built off of a height map. You know, there's actual 3D coordinates, but it's rendered in 2D. That's the kind of the way the isometric engine in Ultima 8 worked, and it's the same way that they did it in Ultima Online. And I've had a look at game engines and stuff with the idea of trying to build something similar to that, and there really isn't any proper 2D engine that accommodates that type of isometric game. They all cop out and go straight 2D with isometric stuff. So they use tile sets, and it's got to be flat, right? So, you know, your tiles are flat 2D diamond shapes or whatever, and you build your map by putting them in an X and Y coordinate. They don't have that Z coordinate where there's height, right? And that was one of the great things about Ultima 8 and Ultima Online, is that when you go into a building, some of the walls and the roof stops being rendered so that you can see inside. Now, Ultima 8 and Ultima Online had the problem where, because it's 2D, you couldn't rotate, so you could only ever see a building from a certain angle, and they had to deal with that. What they've done here in Aria is actually solving that problem. Just make it 3D and let the person rotate the camera. Right now, you don't have to worry about, can I see something that's on the side of the building, right? Yes, you can. You just rotate the camera. It required a lot more work from the level designers in Ultima 8 and Ultima Online to kind of make the world make sense from the perspective that you view it in. But in a way, that's kind of nice as well, because it grants them a sort of artistic license to design something that has, I don't really know how to explain it, but it has the feel that you want it to have. So, you know, a square room with 4 walls can feel a lot more open, and you know, puzzles and corridors can be made to feel more narrow based on whether you're walking, you know, in this direction or in that direction. So either of these 2 directions will feel more open, these 2 directions will feel more constricted because the walls and things will block it. And I think that's where things like Ultima 8 had a strong sense of, you know, when you're in a dungeon or if you're going through a cavern or whatever, you were a little bit more tense, because even though the enemies weren't that hard and the combat was very simplistic, the fact that they could surprise you and, you know, you could sometimes hear them and not see them, it really added to the depth of the game. Where I feel like when you take this approach, where you give the player freedom to move around, whatever, all that you do is you make the level designers a little bit more lazy and you make the player do more work. It does let you design nicer things. So like now you can make the buildings and the stuff look nicer from all directions. Like if you did the proper 2D isometric thing, you wouldn't even bother putting detail on the side of that wall, right? Like even if it was 3D but it was locked so that you couldn't rotate the camera, right? You wouldn't bother putting any detail on the textures on the back of that, because you'll absolutely never see it. And so the best approach that I've seen that people suggest when trying to recreate that is to make it a 3D game, do it like they do it in Aria, but just lock the camera, right? So just lock it like this, so you can only move around, and then you get the same experience. It's just easier to make the game engine that way. But I think then you lose, obviously, you lose one of the other advantages. Iron, copper, gold, cobalt. Is that a proper 2D isometric thing will run much better on any platform, right? Whether it's mobile or low-end PC or console or whatever. And I think there's a I wouldn't say a niche, but there's an opportunity to be missed in that 2D isometric games work really well with controllers. So these days they're trying to make games for console first and then for PC, mainly because of the... I was actually wondering if that would work. I guess it doesn't. They tend to make games for console because it's the more restrictive input paradigm, and then they kind of just make it work on mouse and keyboard afterwards, right? Because the market on consoles is so big, and because the consistencies between a PS4 and an Xbox, you know, is closer. Even if you go cross-generational and you say whatever the next Xbox and the next PlayStation is, you know, they'll be more similar to each other than the input-wise, I mean, than a PC will be. So it just makes sense to focus your efforts there to make the game play as smoothly as possible on as many platforms as possible. Um, and that's why I feel like, even though I've been a mouse and keyboard PC gamer for almost all my life, um, I'm starting to play more and more games with a controller on PC because I just feel like that's what games are being designed for. And a 2D isometric game really maps well to controller inputs because um, your movement is one set of analog axes, um, and if you do need an aim or a directional thing for interaction, you can use the second stick, right? And that maps relatively well to keyboard and mouse because you have WASD for the movement, and you have the mouse cursor for the interaction or the aiming or whatever it is. And I do think games these days tend to like hold people's hands too much. Um, that's one of the things I like about these games like Aria, where um, they're not like they're not necessarily ensuring that everybody gets through the game. Like their objective isn't to make sure that you can pass the first level and then the second level and so on until you get to the end. Their objective is to show you, hey, this is some stuff that you can do. You know, you can be a tamer, you can be a fighter, you can be a mage, whatever. If you say you're interested in one of them, they'll go, okay, this is basically how it works. You get the spell book, you get the reagents, you learn the spell, this is how you cast it, do with it what you want, right? And I kind of like that. I mean, obviously, before they had that, it wasn't even that. It was just like, hey, here you are, figure out what you can do. I like that when there are things that you can do that's worth figuring out. Like if there was a sneaky way to, tame a pet that gives you a massive advantage or something like that. It would be worth not telling the player and having the people who figure it out have an advantage, and let everybody else bitch and whinge about it. Like, that's fine, right? If you see somebody with something that you want, that should just motivate you to figure out how they got it and do it yourself, right? But people aren't like that anymore. If it's not kind of given to them or explained to them or whatever, they tend to get a little bit salty over it. So as an example, if you had a 2D isometric game where you move around and then you would shoot, right? I would make it, if you were like an archer, you would aim in the direction that you want to shoot, and then you'd shoot, and if you miss, you miss. Alright, Slime Mobbo. Have fun. And maybe if you wanted that to have the RPG element of like aim and accuracy and stuff, you can bring that in by having spray and reducing it as your skills get better. But let people actually get better. Make it, I almost want to say, more action RPG. But games tend to steer away from trying to blend those two things. So this goes for like the skill approach, right? Skills is everything, right? I can be the best player in the world. If my skills aren't 20, I'm not killing a Drake, right? It's just as simple as that. Which is fine. That's what this game is trying to be. Or on the other hand, they'll have like the other side where it's all player skill, not statistics, not stats and attributes, and you could in theory get to end game content with very little time commitment if you're just really good, which obviously wouldn't normally happen. But what I'm saying is, if an experienced player created a new account and got into the game and they can do end game content, that would be a game that's highly skill oriented. And then what you would get somewhere in between is a balance between the two, um, where having good player skill gives you an advantage, but players that play diligently and work on their builds or their skills should get close to the level of performance that a highly skilled player gets. So when you get to the end of the progression, the RPG type progression, um, you have to keep working on your player skill to progress further. And I feel like that would give you longevity in the game, right? Because you're never going to be the best. There's always going to be somebody better than you. Okay, one person gets to be the best. Everybody else needs to try and catch him, or her, or it, or they. And so you don't see too many of those games. Now, I guess is kind of a action RPG category that kind of falls in there, but I think that part of that sector of the market is a little bit underdeveloped. And I think people struggle with that because they tend to commit too much resources to making games shiny, getting big name voice acting, and all that kind of stuff, and they don't necessarily focus on the detail as much. So, to take an example of a game that I'm quite excited about, something like Cyberpunk 2077, right? I'm super excited for that game. I think it's going to be awesome. I think they're doing a lot of stuff right, in terms of not overhyping the game, in terms of being candid with the details of the game, in terms of showing people gameplay only once it's mostly solidified, not announcing. I mean, they could have announced that Keanu Reeves was involved much earlier and people would have gone apeshit. I think leaving it for this close to the launch was the right way to go. They're doing a lot of things right. They they also kind of have not a class-based system and a skill tree type thing. So they're doing a lot of good game design things. But it's still kind of a on rails type RPG, if I can put it that way. So I know the missions are open-ended. You have different approaches to do them, different play styles to do them, and from what they say, it'll affect the story and the outcome. Maybe doing something one way. I don't think it'll necessarily change the ending of the game, but it'll change how future missions might play out. And that's about as much as you can hope for, right? Even if you look at Telltale games that give you tons of choices all the time and they affect things, there's not an infinite number of scripted things to happen. Not nearly as many as there are choices that they give you. So, it still does have a limited impact. How many did I add? 500, 800 bricks and 2 boards. But again, that's a story-driven RPG. It's definitely not the sandbox type playstyle, and that's really where the compromise comes in. So, and I think where you find interesting interesting games that gets in between there, Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, most of you subscribe to him already. That's Zaffa Geek. He's the ambassador for Crimson Sea. I was helping him earlier today, gathering resources for their headquarters. So I'm just letting him know that I put some materials there. I think some of the indie devs are like making some headway in blending those game styles a little bit better, because they don't have the budget or the time, or sometimes even the skills to try and wow people with fancy graphics, or you know, exceptionally like written stories. I mean, not that their stories are bad, it's just that they don't get like name recognition, story writers or voice actors or anything like that. So they can't be flashy. They have to do something that people find interesting to play. And even the smaller games, like they sometimes land on very interesting game loops that isn't too complicated to catch onto, but can be very rewarding in the short term a lot of the times, because they don't have the length. Like, you don't play most indie games, you typically don't play for like, you know, the 200 hours or whatever that people might play the AAA titles, and so they really have to get that, you know, that 5 or 10 hours that you're going to play. They have to make it as rewarding as possible so that you'd recommend the game to other people. Okay, so let's see how much we have. We need to make about 40, so let's see how many we can get done. I think crates are over here. It's only 2 per, so we definitely will have enough boards. The main thing is to... Oh wait, before we do that, let's make sure... I've noticed I lost some vitality doing this. I'm only content. I want to be well rested. I definitely want to optimize my skill gains as much as possible. Again, I'm not 100% whether or not that is an official thing. I haven't read anything that definitively states that that's a thing. I think it's a recent change. So, Green Giraffe, if you know... Oh wait, is there a bard in there? If there's a bard in there, I want to rather listen. No, there isn't. If you know definitively whether or not being well rested improves the chances of skill gains, I would love to know that, because right now I'm not sure, and to be safe, I'm making sure to have a full vitality before I do any of my crafting orders or anything that consumes resources. But if it doesn't matter, like, I'm not too worried if it just affects success chance, because all that'll mean is I'll finish the craft order sooner. But if it affects skill gain, then I care about it. It's probably still worth doing, even if it just affects success chance. Wait, what? Oh, did he got stuck in the... I think he got stuck in the inn. That's fine. I'll log out in the inn, and so then I'll be where he is. Okay, so I don't know what our success rate is at the moment. I was banking on about 50%, but I guess it might be higher. We did go up. Actually, we did go up a little bit. We were lower earlier. I think we were at 57 before, so we should be able to go all the way up to 70. So there should still be plenty of headroom to get that done. Oh, that's weird. They're like going in and out of the portal or something. It would be nice if they had a context item to say, if you right click a craft order and you could say complete order, then it would continue to craft the items needed for that order, and as it successfully crafts them, it'll add them to the order, and when the order is filled, it'll stop crafting it. That way you don't waste materials, and you can keep crafting until you either run out of resources, or the order is filled. Because if I just want to craft this and I just say, okay, keep craft all crates, and I walk away, I'll come back when my bag is full or when I run out of resources, and my bag might be full before the order is filled, or it might be full after I've crafted more than the order wants. And so I either make too much, or I come back and it's not done. I mean, it kind of sounds like I'm asking them to make it more unattended, which is not necessarily the thing. I already feel that this process has too little interaction. But since it has so little interaction, me sitting here just clicking the box when it appears is not exciting enough for me to want to be involved in the process. I think I'm trying to remember. It's been forever since I played UO. I haven't played it for decades, but I feel like it had a crafting system where you had a chance to make a better item, and so you might get like a +1 or +2 type item, and if you're doing crafting orders, you'd probably not want to put the better items in the crafting order. So that might help with this, where you have to like check, okay, is this a good one, or is it an average one? And then you could like kind of keep track of like the regular ones go in the craft order, the better ones I keep to sell to players or something like that. I don't know, maybe this probably also has it. It's just that the things that I'm crafting are not things that have stats. So like I don't know what a better crate would be, right? It doesn't necessarily make sense for there to be a better crate. Okay, that's crafting order done. And we still have how much wood left? 339. So we have a fair amount. We probably have enough to do another one of these 60s. I just want to check if I think we might have been okay. The crafting order did reset, but it didn't give us anything that we need. So let's turn it in. So we get kite shield we already have, and we get one of these rune things. I only got 1,300. So let's see what else we got for crafting order. Crate, that's what we need. That's exactly what we need. Let's Ash Longbows. No, I don't know why I'm checking it. I don't need it. I can't use it. I guess I'm just curious to see what other people are getting. Which is it? This one? 20 crates? Yeah, we have enough to do it. Might as well finish it. It's gonna free up some space in our bank. I don't know if my vitality went down. I should have probably picked it up. It's still rested, so I think that's as high as it goes. So we hit 60. Usually there's something at 60 that you can craft. That's significant. Because in taming 60 is where you get the beetle. In fabrication 60 is where you get the saddlebags. It might be that 60 is where the next level of boards becomes available. Probably worth checking that out. Looks like we need 61 as well. There we go, 61. Need 2 more. 1 more. There we go. Now we'd be really lucky if we got another crate order. Another kite shield. Ishi. Roving, okay. 3, so I only used about 50 boards, that's pretty good. Ash, Blightwood, okay. So we've kind of finally out of orders now. So I guess I'll ride iron. I guess I don't have to go that far around. We'll go get obsidian from the inn. And then we'll stash our resources in the bank. So that we have them ready for the next thing. Yeah, that's what I thought. What? There you go. Yeah, so there were a couple of vitality points, even though it was in the rested category. There was a few vitality points, so guess we can rest in between crafting orders. But again, I haven't really gotten confirmation that that matters, so maybe it's not worth the time. That order did give us a fair amount of gold though, so we're at 53,000, so we need 56,000, so we're getting there. We definitely have enough with the gold on the other character. That would be carpentry. So Rune of Ishi's this one. And roving. Forward. Kite shield I don't have yet, but I have one here, so I guess I can stack it there because it's still technically one that I don't have. So I organize them like this. So these are the recipes I've already learned, and these are the ones I haven't learned. And I think since we took so long to get that done, we don't have the blacksmithing orders. These are all empty now, right? Yes, so I can dismiss them. I'm just going to dismiss them because it's a little bit easier to move around without them. I'm worried I'm going to leave them somewhere. Let's see. Cooking pot, katana, copper dagger. It's really weird. It tends to give me all the really low level stuff, or the really high, like the hardest things that I can craft, like cobalt and obsidian things. I guess what I'm looking for is a kind of a exceptional thing. It's the difficult thing to make with the easy material to make it from, which is kind of an odd combination, so maybe that's why it's not showing up. But I've literally never gotten that. Cloth padded legs and chest. I want helm. Cloth padded helm. Okay. So no. There's like well, okay. Pouches is a low skill level thing, so that doesn't matter too much. But there are some things that you can craft from leather that would give us skill gains. But I'm specifically avoiding it because I think later on you have to craft some things with leather to get the higher skill gains, and I want to save all the leather for that. So we made good progress. We basically got to the amount that we need, but I'm just trying to get it all on the same character. Let's see if our skills. I want this to go up to maybe 35 and have this come down to 20. So I think we're not constitution. I think we need lumberjacking or something similar to get constitution points. That's why we're not going up with what we were doing now. Well, I guess we were lumberjacking. I guess our skill gains in lumberjacking. Well, no, we weren't gaining skill. We were lumberjacking, but we weren't getting skill. That's why it wasn't going up. And then our skills went up from, I think, 568 or something up to 575. So we got a little bit closer. But that's obviously not as high as we'll go because we have a bunch of skills that we need to drop. Like animal law and animal taming both have to go away. So that's another 60 points. And even for the combat skills, we have lancing, healing, martial prowess, and vigor. And we only need to have about 100 points across those, so there's tons that we can drop there. But I'll keep them until I get close. So as these go up, I'll drop some of them or lower them, so that I always have like a 10 or 15 point leeway. I might as well keep them while they're useful. And I think with my tamer character, I'll probably end up dropping animal law and animal taming first before the combat skills, because that'll only be useful once I can make saddlebags. So once my fabrication goes past 60, I can make saddlebags, and then I could tame the horse myself and put the saddlebags on. Because horses you can't transfer other than when both players are online, and with one account that's not possible. But I'm not going to learn saddlebags because I don't want crafting orders for it until I hit GM. So honestly, by the time I have to drop this, it's not going to be useful. So I might as well actually drop it now. So that's where that's going, and yeah, I think that's where we'll end the stream tonight. Um, Thanks everybody for hanging out. I wanted to quickly just try and get a sense of who is still in the chat. And then I'll have a look to see if it's probably would make more sense to look for let's see, following categories. Let's see if anybody else is streaming. Pyoyo is still streaming. He was streaming before I started streaming, I think. Let's see if we can. I'm trying to figure out what he's doing because I can't really see what's going on. Okay, no. I think I'm not going to do a raid. So you guys are welcome to check out. There is another Legends of Aria streamer. I don't know who's on my auto host list, so it might pop over to somebody else after I go offline, but it's up to you. It's quite late for me, so if there's any South Africans around, you know, they'll probably want to go to bed. But I appreciate everybody sticking around to the end. We've got, I'll probably have a stream. It's not on my schedule on weekends because I don't necessarily commit to streaming on Saturdays and Sundays. And when I do, I sometimes do in the afternoon rather than in the evening, which is a different time slot. But what we'll probably do is have another Minecraft stream tomorrow. And then possibly something else on Sunday. It might be Aria again, or it might be Borderlands 3. We'll see what I feel like. I might play some Borderlands 3 over the weekend anyway. So depending on if I end up playing, if I play in the afternoon and I feel like streaming, I might just stream when I do Borderlands. Otherwise, I'll have a Minecraft stream in the evening. But yeah, on weekends I kind of wing it. I see what I feel like. We might want to. Yeah, I tend to have a Minecraft stream on Sunday because on Mondays, you know, the big guys get the Minecraft viewers. So I like to do something to ease me into the week on a Monday anyway. So that'll probably be Aria. So I'm likely to do a Minecraft stream on. Actually, I might do a Minecraft stream on Sunday, do Borderlands tomorrow, and then do something like Aria on Monday again. But if I manage to get some time to play Aria on the weekend, I might pop in a quick stream as well. We'll see how it goes. With Aria, it's kind of like I don't put an effort into always stream when I'm playing because there's just a lot of grinding to do, and it's not always the greatest to stream absolutely everything. But yeah, when I feel like playing Aria at the time when I normally stream, I just stream it. So I'm actually surprised there wasn't a lot of people upset about the store. Well, I mean, there were a lot of people upset about the store, but not in my stream. So I think people have had enough time for it to sink in, and they're either over it or they've calmed down and they've realized that complaining about it isn't gonna change it much. So. Alright, great, thanks everybody. That's going to be the end of this stream. Feel free to follow if you want to know when I'm playing Aria or Minecraft or whatever again. And my Twitter details should be below on one of the panels. I normally tweet out when I start a stream, so especially over weekends when I stream, if you want to know when I go live, you can follow me on Twitter, and then you'll get a there'll be a tweet, so you can set that up for notifications if you want to know. I tend to always say what I'm going to stream, whether it's Minecraft, Aria, Borderlands, whatever, so that you can check your Twitter without having to go to the stream. So that's it for now, and I will see you, all of you, tomorrow or Sunday, depending on whether or not you try to tune in for the Aria stream, or Monday if I do the Aria stream. Thanks everybody. Have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers.